Thank you for staying with us as we continue our conversation on the Ma Kote Mangrove. Next we meet with Lucia National Trust, the Eastern Caribbean Communications Manager of the Nature Conservancy.
My name is Lucia National. I'm the Eastern Caribbean Communications Manager for the Nature Conservancy.
All right, Lucia, first of all, we're here in the south of the island. It's hot, it's sunny, there's a swamp next door. What exactly brings you here?
Sure, we're here celebrating Mangrove Discovery Day. So it's the last weekend in a whole long restoration project. So all week we've been restoring Ma Kote Mangrove, the forest here in Vieux-Fort. On Friday we had about 300 students and teachers come to help us replant. We have a nursery back here that the people here have been working on with the St. Lucia National Trust, the Fisheries and Forestry Departments, as well as the local Alpicon charcoal producers. So they've been growing these seedlings to replant the mangrove nursery out there, because we know that the mangroves are really critical for coastal communities to help keep waves back, and so the homes and businesses aren't flooded, as well as an important nursery ground for small fish and lobster and all those important species.
How did you get involved in this? Was the approach made from St. Lucia, or it was part of your original project?
Sure, yeah, it's part of a project that's all across the Eastern Caribbean called the Climate Resilient Eastern Caribbean Marine Managed Areas Network. And so it's a partnership with the Nature Conservancy as well as local groups like the Trust and the Fisheries and Forestry Department, working together to restore the mangrove ecosystem here in the south.
So what's the objective for this spot? Are there numbers that you're looking at in terms of achieving here?
Yes, yeah. So the number of plants that we've had to restore and plant out in the site this week is 4,000 red mangrove plants. And that has been happening successfully despite very muddy conditions. So the kids had a lot of fun trampling through the mud. And then today is just mostly about awareness. So we have lots of games and activities centered around mangroves to help people understand why they're such an important species and why things like birds and fish and crab and lobster really depend on them for their habitat.
From your own research and so on, and from what you've heard, how unique is this area? How special is this area?
Sure. Well, actually, Ma Kote, the forest that we're focusing on right now, is the largest mangrove ecosystem in the entire Eastern Caribbean. So it is very important, and it's kind of setting an example because it's such a large site. But these kinds of activities can happen throughout St. Lucia as well as other Eastern Caribbean islands, these kinds of replanting efforts.
And what's the purpose of getting, we noticed there were quite a number of schools there involved. What is the key message to those students?
Sure, yeah, well the future of mangroves is really important. Without mangroves we wouldn't have fish to eat, fish to purchase, and it's really important to keep our communities intact and prevent, especially with growing impacts from climate change. So we really wanted to focus on the future generation, helping them to understand, helping them to put their trash in the bin rather than sometimes it floats out into the mangrove, and that's really what's helping to cause some of the major problems there. So the kids, when they become aware, they can really make a difference for the mangroves in the future.
So the mangroves are the only coastal projects that you're involved with, or there are other projects in St. Lucia and the other islands?
Sure. In general, the project is working with marine managed areas, which are protected areas along the coast where they're sort of co-managed with the community, so they have conservation, fishing, tourism. All of these groups are coming together to manage it, the resources sustainably. So that's the overall goal of the project, but we see this replanting of the mangroves as a critical part of that, because that's one of the ecosystems that will be protected through these areas.
Now, there's some games we noticed around. Can you explain? We'll go to them in a while, but just explain to me the thinking behind those games.
Sure. So some of the games are just for fun, to have kids come out and have fun. We have lots of little prizes, notebooks, pencils, things for schools, backpacks. And the other games are really educational, so they teach you about the different types of mangroves and why different kinds are important, some of the special features of the different types of mangroves, as well as some trivia questions, and then other kinds of games like fishing and things that would have to do with the ecosystem and the environment that we're focusing on.
The objective, as Lucian has mentioned, is to plant 4,000 trees and to keep on propagating new plants.
We've been planting the 4,000 plants back out into the forest through phases. So the largest amount of planting has been happening throughout this restoration week. Mostly that was through the charcoal producers. The Forestry Department have been going out there in the mud and replanting these plants, as well as the children were able to plant some along the beach and some of the drier areas. And then some more will be, so at the end of the week we should reach the 4,000 target. And after this, the plan is to continue these efforts, so they have the nursery that's already built, and so they'll be continuing to gather the seeds and grow the seedlings in the nursery. When they're ready to be planted, they'll go back out to the forest to help grow it back, so hopefully in a year, 2 years, people can come back and they'll see green, nice mangrove forest there.
This is Calabash Community. We will return to the Ma Kote Mangrove shortly. Stay with us.